The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show, where we're talking with HR and business thought leaders about living and working in a world where the wired, the tired, and technology converge. I'm your host, Ira Wolf, and I'm joined again by my co-host, Keith Campagna, and our sponsors, JobVite and Success Performance Solutions. We have a great show coming up today. Our guests today are Cyrus Shepard from Moz.com. That's Moz.com. He's having a little technical difficulty. I just got an email, so hopefully he'll be able to join us shortly. And on the line is Megan Boyd, who's the SEO director from Main Street ROI. Before we get to our guests and we bring on Cyrus and Megan, Keith, I'm not sure we thought about SEO, Google for Jobs, things like mobile first indexing. Those certainly weren't things in the vocabulary of HR recruitment, and you've been in this world longer than I have been. I'm not sure we ever imagined that's what we'd have as our guests today.
No, but it's funny to here we are, right? And to think that there's so much going on in the world of technology, and HR has very little understanding, if at all, any understanding, Ira, about what to do about it. I think this is the kind of thing that if we have the right listeners, they're going to gain competitive advantage in the talent marketplace. And I'm thrilled to have the guests on the show today.
Yeah, well, I think it even goes beyond that. It's one is just the fact that we have to probably explain what SEO is. Then I mean that shows how low the bar is set. Yeah. But it's going to be really, really critical, and I'm really excited about today. I mean, I'm sort of I often say I have a marketing company. Even back, 25 years ago when I was practicing dentistry, yep. I had I said I probably had a marketing business that just happened to be providing dental services, and now I have a marketing company that just happens to be providing assessments, employee assessments, leadership assessments, recruitment marketing consulting, because if no one knows you're there, then how do you have a business? So really, really excited about this today. Don't want to spend a lot of time because we've got, as I said, we've got two guests, and I want to make sure that we give them ample time. There's no way that in 40, 45 minutes we can cover all the topics, but there's a something coming up on July 1st that's going to rock the HR and recruitment world and staffing world again. So we definitely want to make sure we're there. But anything new and exciting in your life? I know you're life work integrations on the move. You're doing something with the ROI.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's crazy to see how much is coming in the near future. We've got a ton of activity, you and I, speaking events, both at a SHRM level, as well as some other local organizations are really interested with the message of life work integration. And just to remind everyone out there that the truth of the matter is that we could talk technology and work all day long, but at the end of the day, we are people that are going home, and stress more often than not comes home with us. So what companies need to do, in addition to fine-tuning their search engine optimization, Ira, is they need to take a look at the recruitment world on the other side of the coin and think about retention. And how is it that you can effectively, and I mean sincerely, retain employees who are stressed, disengaged, and most of them will take an opportunity to get another job. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Keith. Hey, Keith, you're sounding a little bit blocky again, so I don't know if your mic flipped or not. We're not in the same location today, so I can't keep tabs on. So I can't dress the audio on Keith like I usually do. But last week we had a show. We had Daniel Levine, and we had a tremendous response. And Daniel's actually agreed. We got to work out a couple details that he's going to come back on a regular basis. I don't know if it'll be quarterly or even monthly, and we're gonna be talking about trends real specifically. But last week he kind of reintroduced me to Future Shock. You know, it was a book written in 1970s. I'm old enough to remember that when it came off. It sort of faded away because it was this great prediction, but it was amazing. And just to refresh everybody's memory for that, or for if you didn't listen last week, Future Shock it described a time when too much change in too short a period of time would leave us overwhelmed, disconnected, and suffering from stress and disorientation. I mean, that pretty much. I mean, to imagine this was written in 1970, and you know, going back, and you were just barely around. Were you even born? You weren't even born.
I was born in 1975.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I mean, but you know, even going back to the 80s, you know, when you were a kid, I mean, to think about that, we're living in a time when change is too short a period of time. People were talking about it then, and now you talk about how rapid and what the acceleration of change means, and then we take it to HR, and it's pretty compelling message out there of how fast things are changing, and you know, which goes back to my opening comment about when did you ever think we'd be talking? When did you ever think we'd have a guest from Moz, or we'd have you know, somebody on from a digital marketing company? You know, and talking about how important it was for HR. So kind of a circular argument there.
Yeah, but where the wired, tired, and the what is it? Technology
converge,
right?
Yeah. The wired, the tired, and technology. So before we kind of just go on, I really want to get to our guest because we have a lot to talk about. Cyrus Shepard is one of our guests. Cyrus, are you on the call now?
I am on the call. Sorry about my technical difficulties earlier.
Hey, it fits this world where the wired, the tired, and technology converge, right?
Yeah, it's always embarrassing when, you know, I'm considered a technology expert, and when the technology doesn't work for simple things like, you know, connecting to a conference call, it's really embarrassing.
But you're here, and it worked, and you know, through chat and emails, we had everything going there. But let me just do a quick introduction for you, and I want to also bring on Megan. Cyrus Shepard is an SEO and online marketer. He specializes in understanding Google's ranking algorithms, which again is just a huge. You talk about a subspecialty and how complicated it is. At one time, I thought I wanted to coach and counsel people on, not coach and counsel, but counsel, mentor them, and even I started a social media architects company in 2008. It's just too complicated to manage it. I have enough trouble keeping it up for myself. So I can't wait to talk to you, Cyrus. He's currently working for Moz. It's M-O-Z. You just look it up. It is one of the most trusted authorities in search engine optimization and search. So really, really excited about having Cyrus join us. And then we're also going to be joined by Megan Boyd. Megan's the SEO director at Main Street ROI. She's soon going out on her own and be providing SEO training. And I'm anxious to talk to her. We may do some collaboration as well. Her new company will be called Dunmo Digital. Nice. So welcome. We welcome Cyrus. Welcome, Megan.
Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
It's great to be here.
Yeah. For our listeners, today's show is live. Geek Skeezers and Googlization, or live today. Our phone lines and chat are open. You can call us at 561-623-9429. That's 561-623-9429. Or you can send us a message on our chat, which is at w4cy.com. That's w4cy.com. Cyrus, let's start with you. As I said, Moz is probably not too familiar to our listeners. Primarily small business, small, medium-sized business. We may have some other people there, but we specifically target the HR, recruiter, staffing world. So SEO, we'll get a definition of that, but tell us a little bit about what Moz is and why it's important to know you guys.
And hey, Cyrus, before you do that, what Ira really meant to say is Speak slowly and use small words as much as possible.
Yeah, that was my instructions when I set the pitch up.
So Moz has been doing SEO before we even did software. One of the older SEO companies around. We actually do have a number of HR companies, using the software. We have a mission of educating people about SEO, but we also have software that helps people optimize their sites, do things like keyword research, analyze backlink profiles. We have a local product if you have a local presence in your for brick and mortar stores that help locations be found and manage their local presence. But that's what we do in a nutshell. Been around for since around 2004 when the SEO industry was just getting started, and since then we've grown, and we are happy to do it every day.
So let's go back to the very basics here, because even in your description, I'm sure, I knew what you were talking about, but some others may, and it's not that important. But let's go back to the SEO and why it's important to HR and recruiter companies. If you were explaining SEO to my mother, who's almost 96, how would you explain what SEO is?
Okay, so when your mother is I was going to use
by
a
the way,
job
she does go on the internet. She does have a computer.
Yeah,
she does search. So she's not completely a Luddite, but but she wouldn't understand if I said I have a guest about SEO. So
let's say she wants to come out of retirement and find a new job, which is great for a 96-year-old, and she starts like 90% of everybody does, and types what she's looking for into Google. And a bunch of job postings come up, and there are literally thousands of possible results that she's going to see. SEO is the art of moving your result closer to the top by understanding Google's algorithms and optimizing it so that your mother is more likely to click on that result or see that result in search results. Does that make sense?
It does to me. Keith?
Okay.
Yep. So far, so good.
To you. So good. So there's a couple things that have come out. July seems to be, at least 2 years ago, it seems to be the day that, or the month that Google tends to disrupt HR and recruitment. And for listeners and anybody who knows me, you've heard this 1,000 times at least already. And I'm speaking at a lot of the SHRE meetings. It still shocks the crap out of me that how many people don't realize that, or don't even know what Google for Jobs is, that Google for Jobs exists, that Google changed how they display the job listings, and that's even before we get into SEO. So, Megan, I know your company and you personally have done work with HR and recruitment companies and maybe some staffing. Have you, let's talk a little bit about Google for Jobs, because, again, July 2017, it came out, completely disrupted the world, and yet a lot of companies still don't recognize what it does. So what's your take? You're working in, with clients like that. Can you share a little bit about what Google for Jobs is and how it's impacted search?
Yeah, definitely. So Google for Jobs is when you go to the Google page and you search a certain job, Google actually pulls information from different job sites, from different companies, and they display the jobs right there within the search results. And you're able to search through, and you're able to click on to apply, so it'll take you to either the job search board or the company so that you can apply online. And it pulls all this information from the various websites to display it right there in the search results. And it's on mobile, definitely, and on desktop. So I know a lot of companies are just ignoring it, thinking it'll go away, but it's definitely not going to go away. It's here to stay. So you want to have your website optimized so that those job listings show up in the Google for Jobs search results.
So that leads to, and I know the answer, but I know a lot of the listeners don't. That leads to a couple questions. The first is how, if I'm a listener, how do I get my job listed in Google for Jobs?
Right. So it's not an easy answer. There are a lot of aspects.
That's why I'm asking you.
Right. You want to have a page dedicated for that job listing, and you want to have structured data on that page. So that's how Google pulls this information, is through structured data, which is schema. And if you go to schema.org/job posting, it gives you more information on what different structured data you need. I hope that answers it.
So just a clarification, and again, I share this with everyone. There are a couple different ways that you can get listed, but it's not like an Indeed or Monster or Career Builder or other job boards that you just go up and post it and it shows up in Google. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated, as you said, because there are indirect ways that you can get listed, but the best way is to do it directly, which means that each of your company pages, your company website, has to have individual, each job listing needs to be an individual page, and then you need a special code on it. So it's unlikely that HR, recruiters, or staffing is going to do it, but this is where a collaboration with somebody like yourself or somebody internally that understands how to get that code on there is going to be important. And as I recommend, it may not be necessary for every job, but if you have hard to fill jobs, then it's the only way that you're going to, one is show up on Google for Jobs, and then we get into the SEO about ranking, getting it ranked. The other important part is that Indeed, which is still one of the most popular search engines, if you're only using Indeed, then those jobs don't get indexed at all by Google. So,
hey, before we move forward, I want to just bring this. I want to remind everybody. I'm coming from the HR software side of things. Maybe we could just go in small steps here and explain to the audience what it means to not be on Google for Jobs. What are they missing by not? Now, I know the answer, and the short answer is going to be exposure, but why is it so critical that HR, talent acquisition leaders, step up and really get out of their comfort zone and learn this stuff, or partner with you two as soon as possible?
Cyrus, do you want to take the lead on that?
Well, yeah, and this is something that we're seeing not only in jobs and HR, but Google is doing to virtually every industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Be it travel or financial data, song lyrics. They instead of listing websites and linking to websites, Google is aggregating the data and listing itself. And when they take over a market like this, like you said, it's complete disruption. And they're not only crawling the data, but they are becoming the display layer for the data. So if you're not and there's some questions about if Google's being too aggressive, but the reality is if you're not on the platform, your visibility drops significantly, and so the people who are participating are doing much better than the ones who are trying to do it on their own. Short answer, yeah.
And you brought up a great example of that. Google didn't just pick on the HR world and jobs, but with travel. And if you just do a search, if you did a search a year or two ago for flights from Newark to San Diego, you would be directed to a lot of travel sites. And now, right at the top, there's maybe the top, I don't know if it's the same number, but let's say the top 3 flights that are available. So now they're competing with the Expedias and Travelocity and all those other places. And so the same thing's happening in jobs. So that was a really good example to explain what was there.
And they're doing a great job with it. I mean, their travel product is amazing, and
it is.
It kind of makes sense, for the consumer, instead of going to 8 different job boards, just the one job board that has everything. Again, there's some concerns that, maybe Google's abusing their monopoly power, but for the consumer, it's a good deal. And they're just going to continue to improve on this, and job seekers are going to learn increasingly to rely on Google on their phones, on, when they do their searches, and the product's just going to grow. So early adoption is probably the best idea.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that, Megan? Or anything we missed?
I'm just going to echo, a long time ago, people used to just go to the job boards and look for jobs, but now they're going directly to Google and looking for jobs. So it's a different world than it was, a few years ago. So, you definitely want to be on jobs for Google versus just putting it up on Indeed.
It's always interesting because, when I talk to HR audiences or recruiter audiences or staffing, and their assumption is that, well, we posted it on Indeed because job seekers go to Indeed first. Yet when you talk to especially younger candidates, and by younger I'm going to say 40 or 35 years or younger, they just open a search. They open they open one of the search engines, whether it's Safari or Google or whatever they're using, and which is also interesting, by the way, because people say, well, what if you have an app where you use Safari? And the reality is that's driven by the Google search engine. So everybody's using the Google search engine. But what happens is that you're sitting at an event, you're sitting in a ball game, you're having a bad day at work, you're sitting at your desk. You say, I think I'm going to look for another job. You open up a browser and you do the search. And to reiterate and confirm what both of you guys were saying, that's there. We got a lot to cover. Again, just want to remind everybody, if you have any questions, send your chat in to w4cy.com, or you can call us direct at 561-623-9429, and we'll take your questions. I mentioned just a few minutes earlier, and this is probably going to go into our break and then after, but on July 1st, in July 2017, 2 years ago, Google for Jobs was launched, and again, many companies have no clue of how it's impacting their search. But now we've got mobile first coming out. It's actually been launched before, but now I guess Google's getting serious about it. And a lot of people are pretty frenzied, especially in the marketers. Digital marketers are sort of going crazy with this mobile first. So, Cyrus, I'll throw this to you first, and then we'll probably take a break after that, and then we'll come back and we'll pick it up again with Megan. Cyrus, what's mobile first indexing? What's the update, and what does it mean for companies that aren't prepared?
So mobile first indexing. So Google, when they crawl your site, and Google will crawl your site typically several times a day, they pretend or they emulate that they're crawling it on a mobile device. So they're not actually doing that, but that's how they look at your site, how it's going to look on a mobile phone. And that's how they evaluate and use that information to rank you in search results. So if you have information on your desktop that doesn't appear on your mobile website, that information is not going to count. So how your website looks on mobile and how it behaves on mobile takes precedence in how you rank in Google. So we used to ignore mobile. Mobile was a afterthought. We'd build a mobile site years after we build our desktop site. Now it has to be mobile first. Over Google's own statistics show that something like 55 to 60% of all their searches are performed on mobile devices. So that's how they're judging your site. You got to make sure that everything works, everything's fast. So people on subways, people with a poor reception, can load your mobile site, and that's become increasingly important over the years.
So there's a couple parts to that, and again, we'll come when we come back from our break. We'll kind of follow up on that. But you mentioned one is again, I'm trying to take this down to levels that that our audience understands. One is it's a level of responsiveness, that the fact that it displays properly on your 27-inch screen on your desktop, or even your 15-inch screen on your laptop. Now all of a sudden it's got to be on your 6-inch screen or your 4-inch screen on your mobile phone or even a tablet. That's called responsiveness, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the other part of that is not only does it have to be responsive, but it has to be fast. Which most people never considered before, that page speed.
Yeah, and most people when they're looking at their website, they're doing it in their office with their blazing fast internet or at home.
Yeah, they're all connected. You're connected to an Ethernet cable, right? Yep.
Yeah, when the reality is, so many of your users, they're on the bus, they're inside a mall, on a bad 3G connection.
They're in rural America.
They're in rural America, and so many. And maybe that's only 30% of your audience, but how important is that 30% of your audience with those slow connection signals? So speed is an actual Google ranking factor. It's a small one, they say, but it affects so many of the other factors. So if people can't load your site, they're going to leave. Google can look at that information and say, hey, why is everybody leaving this website? Maybe it's not such a good experience for people, and they can theoretically rank your website accordingly if you're not delivering those fast response times.
So the message is kind of a quick summary here, and we're going to lead into a break. Is even if your website is functioning very well and it's fast and it looks great on your desktop and your laptop, that Google's saying we don't care. It better have equal or better performance on a smartphone, and all the smartphones. Whether it's an Apple Droid or Windows or whatever other device you're using. Hey, you've been listening to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show. We're here with our guest, Cyrus Shepard from Moz.com, and with Megan Boyd from Main Street ROI, and soon to become Dunmo Digital. We're talking all about Google updates, the Google for Jobs, mobile first indexing, which everyone should be paying attention to, because it's apparently the big launch or the big impact is just days away. We're going to take a short break. We're going to hear from our sponsors, JobVite and Success Performance Solutions. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Behind everything you're searching for is something you're actually looking for. When you search with the real Yellow Pages, you get more than a contractor. You get a whole new curb appeal. It's not just getting directions to a dry cleaner with YP.com. It's rescuing an old favorite from the back of the closet. And it's more than finding a locksmith with YP.com on your mobile. It's getting to sleep in your own bed. Whatever it might be, there are more ways to search and more ways to find exactly what you're looking for with the real Yellow Pages, YP.com, and YP.com on your mobile, only from AT&T.
What's up, everyone? This is Keith from the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show, powered by JobVite. JobVite knows career paths are made by people, not by open job requisitions. JobVite's platform ties recruitment marketing directly to applicant tracking and onboarding, creating continuous candidate engagement that effectively connects recruiters with qualified passive candidates. Used by over 50,000 recruiters placing over 1 million jobs, JobVite's platform impacts every company in every industry. Check us out at jobvite.com.
Listen carefully. Up to 9 out of 10 job candidates visiting your company career page leave before completing an application. You heard that right. 90% of candidates who want to apply for a job at your company don't. That's just plain crazy, especially in today's tight labor market. Candidate experience matters. Stop turning candidates away. Let Success Performance Solutions help. Call us at 800-803-4303 or register at successperformancesolutions.com/W4CY. Schedule a no-obligation consultation and get special access to insider tips to recruit faster and hire smarter.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization Show. I'm your host, Ivor Wolf. I'm here with my co-host, Keith Campagna, and we have two special guests today. We've got Cyrus Shepard from Moz.com and Megan Boyd from Main Street ROI. We're talking about search engine optimization in HR and recruitment and staffing, and some of the new updates, an old update, Google for Jobs. We just started to introduce mobile first indexing. We're going to talk a little bit about local, of how the emphasis Google places on local. But Megan, you kind of jumped into the digital marketing world and SEO straight out of school. I mean, one of the questions I often ask is, hey, when you grew up, what drove you to that? I mean, it's not that most 10-year-olds or 15-year-olds say, what am I going to do when I grow up? I'm going to become an SEO specialist. How did you get into SEO?
Right. So I always loved the business world, and my mom was a wedding planner, and I loved helping her get leads for her wedding business. So while I was in college, I would start blogs, and then my blog started to get traffic. So I wanted to know why they were getting traffic, and that led me to SEO, and it's been my love ever since.
Perfect. And so, I mean, again, we often talk about jobs and careers people can go to. I'm not sure. Well, 10 years ago, maybe it started to come in play, but certainly when you were in school, Keith, certainly when I was in school, they didn't even have the internet. So we were still. I still learned how to use a typewriter, so things have changed a lot. Megan, let's go back to what we were talking about, mobile first. We left off right before the break talking about that, the importance of responsiveness, making sure that pages display properly on all devices, and page speed. You've worked directly with HR and recruiters. How have you helped them? What do they need to do in order to make sure they comply with Google's new guidelines and maintain their rankings?
Right. So the latest statistic that I read was between 79 and 80% of job seekers search for jobs on their mobile device, which is very important because, you don't just want Google to like your website for mobile. You want the users to like your website for mobile. And if you're looking to hire people, in millennials and that age range, you definitely want to have a responsive mobile site that loads well and that they can apply on their mobile device. They don't have to, save the link and then go to their desktop or laptop to be able to apply. You'll lose candidates that way. You want to make it as easy as possible for someone to apply for the job. And when your site is fast, then it's going to rank higher within the job results and organically overall.
So let me take, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just going to say, so mobile is definitely something that's very important for recruiters. Yeah,
mobile first means a lot of things. Not only is mobile first indexing, but it's really essential. And just just from demographics, when we keep throwing out the terms millennial for good or bad reasons. The youngest millennial is 23, 24, but the oldest millennial is almost 40, depending on what cut-ups you have. So when you start looking at the population and then you go into Gen Z, which are the kids in college and in high school now, coming into the workforce, you're looking at somewhere between 60 and 70% of the workforce fall into that age demographic, and many of them, the only device they may have is a smartphone or a tablet. So they're not going to libraries to apply for the jobs anymore. At least the good candidates aren't, because most people who have a job, that companies want to hire already have a job, so they're already working. So they're not taking time to run down to the library to use one of the desktops, down there to be able to do it, which is still the attitude of a lot of employers. So are there any other things? Is there anything specifically, if a company says, how do I check if my if my site is responsive and page speed, what are some of the things that they need to do?
Right. So Google has a lot of tools that allow you to check. There's Page Speed Insights, and it gives you a rating on your mobile speed and your desktop speed, so you get 2 different grades. And then it gives you some information on what you can do to improve your mobile speed. And then I mentioned structured data before. There is a structured data testing tool that Google has that allows you to test your site to make sure that your structured data is in place and there are no errors.
So, Cyrus, Moz has a million tools out there as well. Anything specific that you would suggest to complement what Megan offered?
Well, we do have a lot of tools specifically around local SEO and crawling and indexing. And my bosses would probably hate me for saying this, but before you even look at Moz tools, to echo some of the other comments, I think you first, if you're just getting started, you need to take a serious look at Google's tools first. Specifically, there's a tool called Search Console that you can connect your site to, and Google will give you a load of information about how Google sees your site. And I'm sure many of your listeners are already familiar with Google Analytics. Those two, Search Console and Google Analytics, are the absolute must-have starter packs. And then after you get a little comfortable with them, then I'd start to maybe look at some of the more sophisticated tools, such as what Moz has.
So, absolutely, and I appreciate that. And I just kind of smiled. You can't see that, Cyrus, but no, they're not familiar with Google Analytics because I haven't asked some of their metrics from their ATS system, like how many people visited your jobs, how many people started to apply, where did they come from, what devices did they use, and it's like, well, how do we find that out? So the marketing department is, but I think the first thing that came to mind when you said that is that HR and marketing need to collaborate.
Yes.
This is recruitment marketing is really a collaboration, and we're not suggesting that HR and recruiters must learn all these skills, but they need to be knowledgeable enough, and that's why I was so excited about having you guys on their show today about increasing the awareness of what are the right questions to ask rather than just searching for another job board or another HR technology. That's not going to help. Getting your jobs posted is one thing. Getting your jobs ranked is another. Megan, I'm going to I'll throw this out to both of you, but Megan, I'll throw this back to you again because you work specifically with HR and recruitment. We're talking about the job listings, which is usually where the focus is. How do we get our jobs to show up higher? Have you seen any, or maybe you're working with us, what about the career pages? I mean, companies have a career page, they land on them. Oftentimes it's just a listing of jobs. What do companies need to do to pay attention to getting their career pages, to help in their employment branding, but also the job applications? Most job applications are horrible. I mean, a PDF is not optimized at all. So what are you seeing or what are you coaching your clients on to help them understand that their career pages and even the job application need to be, meet the new guidelines?
Right. Yeah. So for the job listing pages, like their overall career pages, you definitely want those pages optimized as well. I focus a lot more on the job listing itself since those are the ones that show up in the Google job results. Right. But you don't want to neglect the actual career page either. You want to make sure that you have optimized title tag, meta description, that you have content on there, and as well as the structure data. There are some rich snippets that you can add to those pages as well. And that, if you have a job listing and you've either filled it or that it has expired, that you remove that page and you don't have that page anymore, or you're sending people to a page that, the job listing isn't there. And there's a way that you can do that with structured data where you assign an expiration date. And then go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say for the job application, just make sure it's easy for the candidate to find how to apply, whether it sends them to an external site. A lot of companies use, another site to do the job application, or whether you're asking them to email you. Just make sure that that's easy for them to find, either on the top of the page or at the very bottom. I like to list it in both places. That way, if the job listing does show up in Google results, that they can click and apply directly from there.
Yeah, no, great advice. Really important. And anything, Cyrus, that you could add on that? Because I want to. We have a few minutes left, and I want to make sure we hit local. Anything more on the I guess the indexing and the optimization for career pages and applications? I
want to go back to something we were talking about earlier, and super simple about mobile. Is that don't just check when we think about mobile first, when you publish a job posting or anything, pull your phone out of your pocket and load the page every single time to make sure everything looks good on mobile and loads it. And you don't have to be technical to do this. Just make sure you do it every time.
I have to push pause here, because why did the person who's at such a high ninja level like you just bring that up? What's the value of that? Because again, HR people and maybe most people inside of small businesses have no idea why that's super important.
Yeah. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit. You don't have to do it every time, but every time you publish any sort of new page or anything different. And even at Moz here, we just launched a pricing page last week, super important, and it ran for 3 days before someone noticed that on mobile it just looked like hell. I was looking for the right word there. I hope hell is okay.
It sure is.
Hey, our president says it all the time, right?
Yeah, and so that experience on mobile was terrible for people, and the page wasn't converting well. And so it's just a simple, super dumb step that you need to make sure that you do every time. Otherwise, your customers aren't, or your job seekers aren't going to be the ones to alert you to these problems.
Got you.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, so let's again, we've got about 5-6 minutes left, and I want to make sure we cover local. Megan, I know this is important to you. And again, we've got a lot of companies that are manufacturers. They're not brick and mortar in the sense that people stop by and buy things, and they say, well, why do I care about Google Local or Local Search or Google My Business? Because people apply locally, especially in HR. So give us what's the importance of it, and what suggestions would you have to help optimize the local search?
Yeah, local. I love local. So right now, if you search on Google for any type of job, it's going to generate local results, whether you put the city name or not. It's going to show you local results near you. So you definitely want to make sure that your job listing is optimized. You have the city and state, and that's included within the structured data that I keep mentioning because it's very important. And, if it's a remote job, say that it's a remote job, because people specifically search remote jobs as well. So just having that area that you're trying to look to hire in, having that on your job listing is extremely important. And also, I want to mention having your current employees review you on places like Glassdoor, and there's a site called Kununu where people can review the company, and those show up within those job results in Google, the 5 stars, and it links to your company profile. So just make sure that you're claiming your company profiles on sites like Glassdoor and Kununu, and that you're asking your employees to review you, give an honest review. Don't try to sway them one way or another, so that you have that you're legitimatizing yourself, like you're,
Right.
Yeah, and in Google for Jobs, and again, I believe some of the other ones do that too. By the way, Indeed also has reviews, and if you don't put them, even if you don't put them there, they're showing up. Even if you don't want them, you don't have a choice. But one of the factors that's influencing people to change jobs work and come to your company is commute distance, and Google for Jobs is putting that in there. So you want to make sure your locations are accurate, and if you have multiple locations, you want to make sure that they're listed. Because again, people are looking to shorten their commute time, and that may be a critical decision on how you get there. Cyrus, Google. I mentioned a couple times Google My Business. Can you share a little bit what Google My Business is, why it's important to be there? I think Megan indirectly referenced it, but what's your...
Now following up on what Megan said, which is absolutely excellent. When you're going to show up, you don't know where you're going to show up on Google search. It could be in these third-party aggregator sites. It could be on review sites. But what people will often do is, when they're researching you, they want to go to your own website. So they'll find your job posting, and then they will do another Google search. They want to find your business. They want to read your about page. They want to check you out. So you want to make sure that your website is showing up, and those non-job pages that people can research you, and you're putting your best put forward. So Google My Business is a third tool. I think you've talked about it before. It's for local business. Anybody with an address, where if their business has an address, they can go in there and claim their profile. If you have an address, and usually put your business phone. Make sure your information is correct. Make sure you're showing up. You can put your hours in there, things like that, and it will give you some insights as to your visibility. We do it for all businesses. We do it for Moz. I did it for my in-laws' little garage, mechanics garage that employs 3 people. So it's a great tool for anybody to sign up and use.
Yeah, and just for listeners, I mean, when you pull up a Google search, if you type in the name of a business, so if you type in Success Performance Solutions, there's a box that shows up on the right-hand side, and it's they have my map and my hours, and we're virtual, so the address doesn't really mean a whole lot. But on the bottom of that, we're promoting Google. I promote to my clients to use Google. Make sure they have the Google My Business and that knowledge graph, because on the bottom it's something called Google Posts, which posts, P-O-S-T-S, which most people don't realize is there, and you can upload images. You have an event, you have a career fair, a job fair coming up, an employee of the month, short videos of what it's like to work at your company, interviews. You can post those, and it's free. Anything Google, just like YouTube, Google loves Google, so they pick it up and they enhance it. Hey, unbelievably, we're like 3 minutes from the close here, so I want to give each of you like a minute to close, how people can get a hold of you, and real quickly, kind of a summary. So Megan, what's your wrap up here, and how can people reach you?
Yeah, so basically make sure that your site works well on mobile, and that you're using structured data, and that you're showing local results for jobs. You can reach me on Twitter. My handle is MGNBYD. It's my name without vowels. And then my LinkedIn is actually linked through my Twitter. And you can email me at localseowithmegan@gmail.com. And it's been a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Love to have you back. Cyrus?
Impressive.
You can also follow me on Twitter. Just search for Cyrus Shepard on Twitter. If you want to check out Moz, we've got some great learning resources about SEO, local SEO, mobile, all the stuff we talked about today. You can just look at our Learning Center. I think it's a great place for people to start. And I appreciate you having me on the show today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you to both of you. It's been great. I mean, I can talk about this stuff all day, so I hope our listeners got a lot out of it. I will provide some additional links and resources on the podcast. Again, Keith, you were sort of taking a back seat today, but what did you learn here?
I will accept no back seats. I learned that there's a huge gap in the difference between what business people are doing for HR and what Google is doing for everyone else. And we talk about that McKinsey statistic, the rate of change is 3,000 times greater than it was 100 years ago, right? I can't imagine what we're going to be talking about a year from now in terms of the distance and the difference and how far behind people are and what are they going to do. I think that Megan and Cyrus have a great future, because I think it's just going to get that much more crazy.
Yeah, and I'd love to have both of them back. And I think if we're talking, I always close my presentation with the following: if you think it's crazy now, wait till voice search is 50% of search. And it's no longer how do I get to be number one, it's how do I get to position 0. So hopefully Cyrus and Megan, you'll both enjoyed today, and you'll both be willing to come back, and we can talk about position 0, right, and voice search in the very near future. I want to thank everyone again for listening to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. We're always interested in hearing what's on your mind. Let us know how we're doing. If you're interested in being a guest or a sponsor or just sharing a few thoughts, call us, send us your quest. You can visit our website at thegggshow.live. That's the gggshow.live or Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization.com. Connect with Keith and me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Thanks again to JobVite and for 4cy.com. Listen to our podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google, and all the others. Until the next episode of Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization, this is Ira Wolf and Keith Campagna. Don't let the shift hit your plans.